How are you?
I'm very well and good, thanks. How are you?
Everything's good. It's so good to see you. The last time we met was in April of 2020, a very strange time on the planet.
Absolutely, before the world took a sharp left into God
Yes,
knows
it did.
what.
Yes, it did. And I remember during that time, I couldn't wait to catch back up with everyone that I talked to. So it's so nice to see you. So nice to see and hear the new material. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Joe. Appreciate it, man. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thanks for having me back on.
Yeah, no, it's
Real,
my pleasure. It's an honor, for sure.
real pleasure to, to kind of reconnect. I mean, it's in this crazy business, you're always kind of catching up with people, and then you think, will we ever
Yeah.
reconnect?
That's it. That's it. I love the rendezvous from this end of the microphone. So it's so good. So where are you located right now on the planet?
Just north of London, just ever
Okay.
so slightly north of London. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. So, with the context of us meeting for the first time in April over the phone of 2020, how did you
Mm.
ultimately make it through the pandemic and how has it influenced your creative process and your job as a musician today?
Well, this project is a direct result of, the goings on during the pandemic. At first, there was shock and panic at this weird, surreal silence. I mean, musicians love silence, but it's something we love to play with, not something we like to be subjected to.
Yeah.
And here we were, subjected to a profound silence. So my first thought was, fill the silence with the thing I'm most familiar with, which is music. And the way around that was live streaming. So I put a little live stream thing together that first started with me accompanying myself on guitar, which I haven't done in a million years. So that didn't work. So I thought, and then they relaxed things a little bit, and so I could bring the musicians into the studio. So we evolved into this fairly elaborate, once every 3 weeks, every 4 weeks type show where we'd have guests and we'd, and so on and so forth. One guy couldn't make it because he got COVID, and so we needed a guitarist, sharpish. And Nicolas Meier, who's my compatriot on this latest project, was recommended to me. And really, at the end of the first live stream, I pulled him aside and said, I really love what you've got going on. When the world rights itself, should we get together and, make some music? Yeah. So there you go.
So you knew pretty quick. So talk to me about kind of how this materialized, how you got together, picked the material, how the working relationship actually became this album.
I decided because I don't normally do a lot of collaborating stuff. I'm usually, sorting it all out in my brain, and I've got myself to debate with over whether or not that goes on the album or that, and so on and so forth. So I didn't want to come into a situation writing with Nicholas where we brought our quote unquote old baggage, to the situation. So we decided what we'd do is we'd meet, no ideas, nothing pre-planned, would kind of stream of consciousness, we do the whole thing that way, just kind of hit play, it's just strum or, do, do some chugging guitar parts or whatever it is. And I would mumble grunts and wails and whatever to it. And every so often, a line, a word, a statement would emerge, a melody. All this was going down onto my dictaphone. And then we went away and I sifted through all the ideas and found little snippets that I thought could be songs. And then I sent those to him. Um, and he would, augment them as he saw fit, add to, and so on and so forth, and send them back. And that went, back and forth until we arrived at the songs that, became the album.
So what is the meaning behind the title Proof of Life?
Proof of Life is the title track to one of the songs.
Yeah.
And it's a song, about testing um, what it means to be human, about our frailty, our fallibility, our vulnerability, all the crappy stuff we do to one another, and all the good stuff and all the beauty, and trying to um, alert one another to the fact that, if we're in the same space on the planet, on this spinning dot in the vastness of space for what is essentially 5 seconds, let's prove to one another we're both alive at this moment, and that where no one is better or stronger or wiser or cleverer than the other. We're just accidents of time, and so that's kind of what the song's about.
So the one thing about catching up after an album's out is that it's been recorded, it's been going through production, and now you're in promotion. It's almost like you get to revisit the project. How does it feel to kind of
Yeah.
get in that time machine and go back and then look at what you're doing now, live shows, what's next? How does that feel?
Mm. It's surreal. I'm not going to lie. It's a weird thing because the album got completed in the first part of 2024,
Yeah.
and I've started work on my next album. I'm really looking at that. So, on creatively, artistically, I've, for want of a better expression, I've moved on.
Yeah.
And then I have to look back at this thing that was a snapshot of where I was 3 years ago, I guess, when we first started writing the project. So it is a bit odd, especially knowing that we're on the cusp of, several dates ahead with it, that I'm going to have to get back into that headspace and be that person again. And even the fact that I'm explaining, the ideas behind the songs to you is making me reflect on, oh wow, so that's where my head was back then, because it's not where it is now.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's very interesting. Great
So
question.
what is it going to be like to hop up on stage and to do this live, to get those those cogs going, remembering it, getting into that
Mm.
vibe, that surreal world? How's it going to feel?
Well, I have the benefit of hindsight because I've done this, quite a few times, and I
Yeah.
know that adrenaline, a room full of expectant people, waiting to see how you're going to dazzle us and all that kind of stuff. Being in the company of musicians whose company you enjoy, whose talent you enjoy, all of that stuff makes for a brand new experience. So even though one might be a bit not necessarily jaded, but you've heard the songs a million times while you're mixing, writing, recording, etc. There's a whole fresh thing that happens once you're in a room, in a theater, playing the songs, and that changes from night to night. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be exciting, I'm sure.
So the one thing I think we touched on when we spoke in April of 2020 was
Mm.
the possibility that musicians were going to hit a crossroads of coming back and how it was going to change the musical landscape. So now flash forward in 2025 with everybody back, albums, live
Mm.
shows. How strong is the jazz community? How much stronger is it now living through that time period?
Yeah, I think it's stronger than ever, I
Yeah.
think there were a lot of great live streams that I, watched myself. I was a big fan of people like Emmett Cohen,
Yeah.
put on this incredible thing. And a lot of people discovered jazz, or discovered that the preconceptions they had about jazz didn't fit with what actually happened when you put it in front of you. It's this dynamic um, uh, 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 thing that reflects on the past, but also can be very forward-looking, very contemporary, because at its root is conversation, and we all do that anyway. We talk to one another, and it's just musicians doing it with music, with their instruments and so on and so forth. So I feel like there's more jazz around
Yeah.
than even before the pandemic, is how it feels to me. And I think the audiences, I just did a small run of concerts in Germany with two guys from Pennsylvania called the Hazelrig brothers. And the audiences were so young,
Yeah.
so hip and so young, and they were so well versed, and they've got a greater knowledge, I think, because of the accessibility that the fact that they can grab hold of any music in the world they want on their phones. It was very, very encouraging and very inspiring. So I think post-pandemic, it's the whole thing's grown even more than it used to be.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to catch you live, they want to pick up a copy of this album, any of the good business, where do they go?
The Bandcamp, because we're going to start off by just putting CDs out.
Yeah.
So Bandcamp will be the first place. The links will be on my Facebook, on my Instagram, Threads, all the social media, and it's just Ola Onabulé. It's the social media site / Ola Onabulé. So
Okay.
it's fairly easy to find us, and the links will be there to head off to Bandcamp to grab yourself a CD, and then hopefully, or we imagine a little later on, we'll do the whole Spotify thing. But we want the ardent lovers of sound, as the musicians meant it to be heard, to get their hands on it first.
Absolutely. It is so great to catch up with you. Thank you so much for talking about this project, the world that we're living in. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on, Joe. Really, really appreciate it. Good to see you again.
Great to see you.
Kansas City musicians, filmmakers, and creatives, this is your invitation. Don't miss Sound to Screen, a one-day music and film workshop on July 19th, 2025 at UMKC's Katz Hall from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Learn how to take your song from concept to screen, bring your instruments, connect with local artists, and enjoy a special masterclass with members of Kansas City's own The Freedom Affair. Spots are limited. RSVP now at soundtoscreen.kccreativecity.com or just search for Sound to Screen on Facebook events.